The Sixers are off to a 7-1 start this season. Joel Embiid is finding himself in MVP talks, and this team seems to be hitting its stride. I'm Madeline Burke for Sports Illustrated alongside Ben Pickman and Michael Pena. And guys, they brought in Doc Rivers and Daryl Morey and a slew of new faces this summer. Are the Sixers building towards becoming a legitimate title contender?
I think they're building towards it, but they're not there just yet. I think the most encouraging thing from this season so far is their defense, right? The Sixers currently have the league's best defense, giving up around 102.7 points per 100 possessions, which is 6 points better than they did last year, right? They're one of the best teams at limiting points in the paint. And one big reason, of course, is Joel Embiid, who is really playing MVP caliber basketball. If you look down their roster a little bit, you see Tobias Harris, he's improving, and Seth Curry is shooting around 60% from three, a non-sustainable number, but still impressive nonetheless. I think one of the concerns, though, or the pushback is their schedule has been pretty soft so far. So while there is certainly room for improvement and there is reason for optimism, I wouldn't say they're a title contender just yet.
I'm with you, Ben, and that's a great point about the schedule. It's a cupcake schedule. They've defeated the Wizards, the Hornets, the Orlando Magic, the Toronto Raptors, the Knicks. One could make an argument that none of those teams are going to make the playoffs. And so before we crown them as title contenders, we want to see them compete against some of the league's upper echelon. Joel Embiid has indeed looked like a MVP candidate. When he's on the floor, the Sixers are crushing their opponent, and when he sits, they get obliterated. And so one of the things that is a really hopeful bright spot right now for Philadelphia is just the fact that Joel Embiid's minutes are way up, which was a concern throughout his career for load management issues or just his need to rest as a big. So that's a real bright spot for this organization right now. And their starting five is probably the best starting five in the NBA statistically. They play a ton of minutes together, and as opposed to last season, all the pieces really fit. So from that perspective, everything looks great. I just want to see them play a good basketball team.
Yeah, and I mean, Embiid's minutes are way up. He's averaging a team high 23 points per game, but it also seems like he's doing so comfortably, and it feels as though the pieces that this team has brought in make it so that Embiid can be playing the best basketball for Embiid. I mean, Seth Curry, Danny Green, that guy, he knows how to win. He knows how to be on a team that kind of spreads it around. With all those years with the Spurs playing alongside Tim Duncan, it just seems like that this team is really stepping into its own, and Embiid is stepping into a role. And Michael, like your point, he's on the court a lot. He's seemingly managing the load pretty well. Is this a formula for sustained success, though, or are you worried that the ghost of injuries past might come up and bite again?
An injury for sure could happen. This is a very strange NBA season. It's truncated and the schedule is condensed. But the way I view it is, Joel Embiid has battled conditioning issues as well throughout his career, particularly in the playoffs when his minutes need to rise and his responsibilities increase. So if you're able to ingrain that now throughout the regular season and sort of bake that in, I think that that can only benefit him and benefit the team, frankly, because you don't want him wearing down when games actually start to matter.
Sounds like Ben's dog has something to say too about this Sixers team. I think he's thinking this team is headed in the right direction. I mean, hey, they've been taking care of their opponents in blowout fashion recently. Even though it is a bit of a cupcake schedule, we'll see how they fare against a more sizable opponent as the season continues. Fellas, thanks so much for the insight. And for more, continue to check in on SI.com.